25 years later, The Fast and the Furious still carries a weight that today's 9-figure blockbusters consistently lack. Here are 13 reasons why, and some of them are just plain weird. Number 13. Let's start with the scene that looks the most like a movie set. The entire sequence was built from genuine Southern California car culture. People who had spent real money, real weekends, and real arguments with their partners about why they needed a second intercooler.
Representation of the legendary cars of our time.
Craig Lieberman brought in around 35 actual sports cars and real drag racers who ran those scenes repeatedly for about $15 a day. 15. That's not a fee. That's an insult disguised as a thank you. And yet they showed up.
Skanks. Why don't you girls just pack it up before I leave tread marks on your face?
Because the culture was real. And that's why the energy in that scene hits so differently. The filmmakers didn't recreate the culture from the outside. It was something the camera captured while the real car community showed up and made it unforgettable. And that's just the beginning, because almost nothing in this film was built by a studio. Stick around because number 5 will genuinely change how you see product placement forever. Number 12. Before filming even got underway, Vin Diesel and Paul Walker did not just sit around reading the script and pretending to understand street racing culture. They went out and saw it for themselves.
Wait, hold up.
No controlled environment, no permission slip. A real race on real streets with real consequences. The kind where if something goes wrong, nobody's handing you a release form. And then the helicopters showed up and everyone scattered, including them. Director Rob Cohen later said those panic-soaked stories from his actors shaped how the underground scenes were written and shot. That mix of adrenaline and oh no, you feel every time Brian's in a tight spot? That's not acting. That's a man who has genuinely sprinted from a police helicopter and is drawing on the memory. Number 11. Most movie cars are manufactured for the role, built by a prop department, dressed up, driven once, and retired. The orange Supra was not that. It belonged to Craig Lieberman, the technical advisor, and it had already been living its best life on the street racing circuit long before a camera came near it. Lieberman had bought a yellow 1994 Supra, spent years turning it into a genuine 650 horsepower machine, and driven it to a meeting with Cohen where Cohen basically got in, went for a ride, and immediately changed the script. A Mitsubishi 3000 GT had been considered for Brian's car. When the team started looking for the right hero car for Brian, they did not have to design one from scratch.
Hey, pop the hood.
Pop the hood?
Pop the hood.
They saw Lieberman's Supra, recognized that it already had the look, the performance credibility, and the real-world appeal they needed, and that was it. One drive in Lieberman's Supra, and that conversation was over. Stunt Supra #1 later sold at auction for $550,000. A car that started as someone's personal project, bought for $24,000, became the most recognizable movie car of its generation. There's a lesson there about just showing up with your work. Number 10. When Paul Walker walked onto that set, he didn't have a garage full of Japanese imports and a subscription to every car magazine. He had some basic familiarity and a role to play.
Nice car.
More than you can afford, pal. Ferrari.
What happened next is the kind of thing you can't write into a character arc. It just has to be real. Director Rob Cohen watched Walker transform over the course of the shoot. The curiosity became genuine. The questions about engine specs became real questions, not script prep. Brian O'Connor falls in love with this world on screen, and Walker was doing the exact same thing off screen at the exact same time.
Even gets near him.
Move your car.
Don't stop it! It's over, please!
Mia, stay out of it!
He later built a performance shop called Always Evolving and put together a serious personal collection. The character and the man had the same origin story, which is why it never felt performed. You can't fake that specific kind of excitement when something new gets under your skin for the first time. Number 9. There is a reason the relationships in this film feel like they have history that predates the opening scene. Some of the chemistry was not scripted.
It's freaking cool. I like it.
Cohen has talked openly about genuine attraction developing between cast members during production, Diesel and Rodriguez, Walker and Brewster, and instead of trying to manage it or work around it, Cohen just let the camera catch it. That matters more than it sounds. That is probably why Dom and Letty feel like they have history even in small moments.
Me and I think Dom and Letty have the longest standing relationship in a feature film.
And why Brian and Mia's relationship has that soft, believable tension that builds slowly.
No, my brother likes you. Usually doesn't like anybody.
Yeah, he's a complicated guy.
There is something easy and human about those interactions. They do not feel over-rehearsed. They rather feel like people who are actually drawn to each other. In a movie packed with noise, engines, and action, those relationships still land, and a big reason is that the emotional fuel behind them was not completely fake. Number 8. This next one sounds like a joke, but it's completely real, and it means that every iconic driving moment you ever associated with these two characters built on a legal technicality. Let's take a moment to appreciate the specific chaos of this situation. Michelle and Jordana were cast in a street racing movie before either of them had a valid driver's license.
I explained to him that I really couldn't drive and that, he should not trust me for his life.
Not, oh, they're not great drivers. Literally unlicensed. The studio's solution was to give them a deadline, get licensed before filming starts, or lose the role. That is a lot of pressure, especially when your whole movie revolves around looking believable around cars. Both actresses had to go get driving lessons, pass their tests, and legally become drivers as a condition of employment.
By the end of the day, I was peeling out, doing donuts, 360s, and it was all good.
What did piss me off, though, is that you couldn't go faster than 80 miles.
For a film about people who drive illegally, Jordana Brewster has explained that without passing, she simply couldn't have been insured for the shoot. And the wonderful irony is that Letty becomes one of the most fearless drivers in the entire franchise.
How about you put your money where your mouth is?
Well, how about I race you for that sweet little ass?
Next time you watch her handle a car like she was born in one, remember that she technically got her license because a movie contract said she had to. Number 7. You know the scene. The car, the tracks, the train appearing out of nowhere. The impossible timing. Brian and Dom are flying toward the tracks, timing everything down to the last second. And then suddenly a train tears through and misses them by what feels like nothing. It looks dangerous, immediate, and way too close for comfort. It's one of the most stressful 30 seconds in the movie, and the reason is very simple. It's edited to feel like one continuous moment of near death when it was actually two completely separate shoots stitched together in post. The cars and actors were filmed first. The train was filmed independently. Then an editor made them share the same terrifying universe. Those elements were combined in post-production to make it all feel like one seamless event. So the panic you feel while watching it is real, but the exact danger on screen was built piece by piece in the editing room. This is technically obvious in retrospect, and yet nobody clocks it while watching because the pacing is so tight. What makes it interesting in 2026 is that everyone assumes every trick like this is CGI now. This was just very smart cutting on a movie that couldn't afford to risk its cast. Old school filmmaking doing exactly what it needed to do, and making a whole generation of viewers briefly forget how to breathe.
Don't push it! You embarrass me! You know what you're doing?
I owe you a 10-second car.
Number 6. The fight between Brian and Vince outside Dom's garage has that quality that's very hard to manufacture.
What is he, sandwich crazy?
No, V, he ain't here for the food.
It feels like it could go sideways at any second. Turns out that's because Paul and Matt looked at the planned choreography and decided it was too clean, too mapped out, too much like a movie fight, and not enough like two guys who genuinely cannot stand each other.
Yo! Try Fat Burger from now on. You get yourself a double cheese with fries for $2.95.
So they loosened it. They played it with instinct instead of precision. What ended up on screen is messy and angry and unpredictable in the way that real confrontations are, not in the way that rehearsed ones try to be. In a franchise that would eventually feature fights involving submarines and literal space travel. It's funny that one of the most effective action moments in the whole series is two guys scrapping on a driveway because they threw the choreography notes in the bin. That kind of spontaneity is pretty rare in action movies, especially when most fight scenes are usually designed beat by beat for safety and precision. But here, that roughness actually helps the scene. It makes Dom's world feel more dangerous and more personal. Number 5. One of the most recognizable brand details in movie history, Dom cracking open a Corona, was not a brand deal.
You can have any brew you want, as long as it's a Corona.
Thanks, man.
Nobody cut a check. Nobody sent a product brief. The writer and director were studying the real Southern California street racing scene, and Corona just kept appearing. At gatherings, at races, at the exact kind of backyard barbecues the movie was trying to capture, so they used it because it was already there. Over time, it became a symbol for the whole film's emotional language, family, loyalty, the quiet moment between all the chaos. And it started because two filmmakers observed a community accurately instead of inventing it.
Vince!
What?
Can I get you anything?
The funniest version of this story is the one where some brand manager somewhere in 2001 watches the finished film and realizes they got several minutes of the most authentic product placement in cinema history completely for free. Number 4. Universal greenlit this film thinking it was a tight, focused street racing movie with a budget somewhere around $20 to $25 million. By the time filming wrapped, the actual number was closer to $38 million. That's not unusual in Hollywood, but what's unusual is what they did with the gap. Instead of building everything from scratch, the production leaned heavily on real cars borrowed and rented from actual enthusiasts in the Southern California tuner scene. These were people's personal builds, turbos, custom rims, years of work, dressed for camera and given back when shooting ended. Craig Lieberman essentially ran a one-man car casting operation. The result was a movie that accidentally became more authentic because it couldn't afford to be fake. There's a version of this film with a bigger budget and a prop department full of studio-built hero cars, and it would have been much, much worse. Number 3. Craig Lieberman's name doesn't appear in most conversations about this movie, which is weird. He shaped much of the film's automotive DNA, former director of the National Import Racing Association, a fixture in the actual tuner scene. Universal brought him in because they wanted the world to feel grounded.
Eventually, I was invited to Universal. I brought up the car while it was still yellow, gave Rob Cohen a ride. He about shit his pants when the booze came on.
Not a documentary, but not cosplay either. Lieberman's approach was practical. Use real cars from the real scene, make sure the terminology holds up, and know which corners you can cut without the audience noticing.
What you running under there, man? You gonna make me find out the hard way?
Hell yeah.
Cohen himself later acknowledged that he sought a reasonable amount of technical accuracy, meaning he wanted the film to feel real without bogging down storytelling with technical exposition. In practice, this meant that some gearhead-level details Lieberman flagged as unrealistic were still included because they served the scene's cinematic purpose. For example, Lieberman helped ensure that the cars chosen reflected the actual tuner car ecosystem of Southern California, circa 2,000 vehicles with legitimate aftermarket support and real performance parts, but he also recognized the limitations of shooting action sequences with real vehicles on tight schedules. The balance he struck is why you can show this film to someone who actually lived in that world, and they'll find things to respect, not just things to laugh at.
This is your basic layout of the car, and that's pretty much what it could look like when it's finished. Something about engines that calms me down, you know?
Man, you should be going to MIT or something.
That's a harder needle to thread than it sounds, and it usually only works when the person doing it has actually been there. Before we get to the final two, subscribe if you're new, because we do this for every movie that shaped a generation.
What'd you put in that sandwich?
That's really funny.
Dom!
Number 2. The Fast and the Furious got a PG-13. That sounds obvious now, but it was not a foregone conclusion during production. The reason it cleared PG-13 rather than tipping into R is that none of those elements were sustained or explicit enough to cross the threshold, according to the MPAA's ratings guidelines at the time.
Talk to me, Jesse. This ain't working, brother.
Hey, man, he was in my face.
I'm in your face.
Extended or graphic content is what flips the rating. Brief moments, even when they're noticed, tend not to. It's a narrow lane, and had the film ended up rated R, its entire opening weekend audience, the teenagers who turned it into a cultural moment, would have looked very different.
So what the hell was that all about?
A business deal that went sour. Plus, I made the mistake of sleeping with his sister.
Number 1. Vin Diesel, in the middle of the Race Wars fight sequence, threw a backwards elbow that connected with a stunt performer's nose and broke it. The stuntman, who was a seasoned professional, reset, composed himself, and they ran another take. No legal action, no major delay. Production continued.
Toretto, stop right there.
According to multiple behind-the-scenes reports, the fistfight captured a little more than planned when Diesel connected with a backwards elbow that struck the stunt performer playing a security guard, breaking the man's nose in the process. That moment, a real injury, absorbed without drama production moving forward, is somehow the most accurate metaphor for the entire film. It was not a controlled environment. It was not a perfectly sanitized Hollywood product. Things went wrong, got messy, cost more than expected, and ended up more authentic because of it.
I don't know, how is it?
Every day for the last 3 weeks, you've been coming in here and you've been asking me how the tuna is.
It's not how you stand by your car. It's how you race your car.
Fast and Furious wasn't built on a studio lot. It was built on real streets, real cars, real people, and a crew that knew the difference between manufacturing authenticity and just finding it.
Winning's winning. It's more than just a hobby. You better learn that.
Want more secrets from movies that changed everything? Check out my next video on Resident Evil.